In this chapter, the authors discuss the seventh step in planning a strategic communication campaign, selecting the channels of communication. They examine several channels available to organizations in this process, being sure to make distinctions between traditional and new types of media. They also discuss 6 important considerations in channel selection, including characteristics of the organization, its target audience, the message, and the channel. In discussing these characteristics and the process of choosing appropriate channels, principles of communication theories such as media richness theory and the two-step flow model will be used to inform evidence-based decision-making. Finally, they conclude by discussing the importance of creating an integrated channel strategy, the goal of any successful strategic communication campaign. The selection of a channel to deliver your message is a critically important aspect of planning a strategic communication campaign. A major principle of effective campaign design is to place your messages in channels that are widely used by your target audience and to strategically place messages within those channels. The medium refers to a specific mode or device that moves information over time or distance so that people who are not face-to-face can communicate. The selection of appropriate medium to deliver their messages therefore becomes as integral a part of the planning process as any other planning decision. Now let's first take a look at the traditional media channels. Traditional media channels include television, radio, and printed materials have an established record in communication campaigns. Traditional media capitalize on the oldest form of communication, the spoken and written word. These channels, television in particular, also have a prominent place in the history of political campaigns in the United States. In contrast, the emergence of new media channels has caused new evolutions and developments to occur in strategic campaigns of all contexts and purposes. New media includes any communication using digital technologies. This includes the internet, email, text messaging, mobile phone, smartphone technology, video, and computer games. For example, the use of new media in the 2008 presidential campaign marked a changing point not only in political campaigns, but of the nature of strategic communication campaigns in general. New media are electronic and operate on digital codes. This means that a large amount of information can be stored in very small spaces. They are used for networking too. Networking is the interconnectivity of digital devices and the people who use them. So some examples can include social media networking sites. New media are also built for information exchange and communication. New media allow for users to produce and exchange their own content. New media are unique from traditional media content channels in that they allow for information exchange and interaction among users. Newer media are more easily used for the tailored communication efforts. So now let's take a look at a few common channels in strategic communication campaigns. First, television is prevalent in the home. It has been heavily relied on as a channel in communication campaigns. The types of messages conveyed through this channel might include standard advertisements, short films, press coverage on local and national news, and public service announcements. Next, radio has remained a prominent and often used channel for a reason. Radio continues to reach the highest proportion of the population. The challenge with using radio is time and the lack of visual aids. Principal, or rather print media and other forms of traditional advertising include newspapers, magazines, posters, billboards, brochures, leaflets, and even direct mail to your target audience. A key benefit of using this type of channel is the ability to directly target a subgroup of the population. A key element to successful print messaging is to develop strategies that will not only ensure your target audience will encounter your message, but will place your messages where they are engaging in the target behavior. Next, let's look at promotional items. These are a relatively low cost and enduring way to keep your message visible among your target audience. Choose promotional items that correspond with the behavior you are promoting. Websites. The organization's website is an important part of your messaging that should not be overlooked. There are two key reasons that websites offer a compelling channel for strategic communication efforts. First, the website is often your target audience's first impression of your organization. And second, websites offer continual access to your target audience. Let's consider mobile phones. They have the ability to offer tailored, interactive, and continual source of messaging to target audiences. Mobile applications and text messages give organizations the ability to reach target audiences anywhere and anytime. But there are limitations to communicating with a target audience using mobile apps. Thus introduce social media, which provide the opportunity for the target audience to become an active part of the strategic communication campaign. Messages can reach a greater audience, but they are also spread by people whom the originators of the messages know and trust and who are therefore more likely to be influential. And finally, face-to-face communication. The use of interpersonal communication might include family and friends of your target audience, or individuals that might interact with your target audience at work or their personal life. Large in-person community events can serve as cost-effective channels to reach thousands of members of your target audience in a place where they are comfortable and having fun. Here are some tips for making sure you are using these platforms successfully. First, choose the event carefully. Second, keep it simple. Third, pay attention to timing. And finally, fourth, be interactive. Organizational members should keep these considerations in mind as they make this important decision in the planning process. Organizational identity and image. Organizational identity refers to how its members perceive, think, and feel about the organization. Organizational image refers to how others view the organization. An organization should be careful to use messages that will be consistent with how those both internal and external to the organization perceive it. If the channel is inconsistent, it should be a favorable violation of those expectations. An organization's brand should also be a part of channel selection. It should be clear and consistent, and this should be reflected in the channels it uses to communicate with its target audiences. Campaign goals and objectives. The long-term goals and short-term objectives of your strategic communication campaign give your efforts purpose and meaning. Target audience. Every decision made in a strategic communication campaign should keep the target audience in mind. Utilize formative research. Message content. The content of the message itself should be considered in the channel selection process. Channel characteristics. Channel reach is the proportion of the target audience exposed to the message. Channel frequency is the number of times a specific person is reached by a campaign. Channel specialization refers to the degree to which a channel can be adapted for a specific subgroup or segment of the target audience. And finally, budget. Smaller organizations and non-profit organizations may need to rely on more efficient channels to convey the message using less resources. So now let us consider two theoretical approaches, the first being media richness theory or MRT. MRT argues that every medium through which messages are sent has a certain capacity to convey messages and cues. The researchers argue that every medium varies in its richness or its ability to provide and clarify complex information in a timely manner. A media's richness lies in its ability to create a shared understanding. The richness of a medium is determined by four questions. First, does the medium offer the ability to send feedback and how quickly? Second, can the medium communicate multiple cues? Third, does the medium offer language variety and the opportunity for natural language? And fourth, does the medium have a personal focus? Now, richer media allow for communicators to exchange information more efficiently and to better understand potentially ambiguous messages. In order from most to least reach, face-to-face communication, telephone, personal documents such as letters or memos, formal written documents, and numeric documents. The essential benefit of using an MRT approach in strategic communication campaign design is its emphasis on the message itself. A sender should determine the equivocality of the message, or how many ways the message can be interpreted and misinterpreted. Messages are effectively communicated when the equivocality of the message matches the richness of the channel selected. Next, let's take a look at the two-step flow model of communication. The two-step flow model argues that messages from the mass media reach opinion leaders first, who in turn pass on that information to those in their personal and social networks. The influence of mass media occurs in two stages. First, the opinion leader or leaders who pay more attention to the media receive information. Second, the general public receives that information from opinion leaders. 5 general assumptions that emerged from early studies tested the two-step flow of communication. First, most people are not directly exposed to mass media. Rather, they are informed through interpersonal communication with opinion leaders. Second, opinion leaders are more exposed to mass media and are much more engaged than the general public. Third, opinion leaders not only inform followers, but also transmit mass media content to them. In other words, followers receive both mass and interpersonal media-based information. Fourth, the general public is not only informed, but is also influenced by opinion leaders. Opinion leaders are capable of changing attitudes and behaviors of their followers. And finally, opinion leaders are not passive gatekeepers of information, because their opinions affect how they transmit information. Thus, interpersonal channels should be used to reinforce and deliver key messages. There are some situations where mass communication is more appropriate than interpersonal communication. It is important to develop an integrated narrative among all of your campaign channels, or a complementary set of messages that make sense with one another. Organizations should strive for synergy across their campaign channels, wherein a message delivered in one channel increases the effectiveness of messages delivered in other channels. Synergy can not only increase exposure and the likelihood that a message will be seen by a target audience, but also the likelihood that the message will make an impact.